The night was cold and silent. High above the ruined valley, broken towers stood like dead giants. Long ago, humans and dragons fought here. Now only ash, stone, and old fear remained. Near the edge of the valley, a small girl walked alone. Her name was Elia. She was only 12 years old. Elia had no parents. No home. No tribe. The war had taken everything from her years ago. Since then, she survived by walking, searching, and refusing to die. Her clothes were torn. Her shoes were broken. But her eyes were still strong. She carried a small cloth bag. Inside were 2 pieces of dried bread and a metal bottle with little water. That was all she owned. She was heading toward the old mountains, Dragonland. Everyone said it was death. Everyone said dragons killed humans on sight. But Elia had nothing to lose. She was hungry. And she had heard something strange. A cry. Not loud. Not angry. Weak. She stopped walking. The wind carried the sound again. Soft, broken, almost like a child crying. Elia turned her head. The sound came from behind the rocks. Her heart began to race. Dragon, she whispered. She should run. Every story said run. But the cry came again, weak and shaking. Elia swallowed hard. That is not a hunter's sound, she said to herself. That is pain. Slowly, she walked toward the rocks. Her hands trembled. She climbed over a broken stone wall and looked down. Her breath stopped. 2 dragon cubs lay in a small pit. They were small, no bigger than dogs. Their wings were torn. Their scales were dull. One had a burn mark across its side. The other was breathing fast, its chest rising and falling like it might stop any moment. They were starving. They saw her. Their eyes widened. One tried to stand, but fell. The other opened its mouth, trying to roar. Only a weak sound came out. Elia froze. This was the moment. Run or die. The cubs stared at her. She stared back. Then something inside her broke. She slowly took off her bag. I won't hurt you, she said softly, even though dragons could not understand words. I know hunger. She pulled out the bread. Her only food. Her stomach twisted. She had not eaten since yesterday. Her hands shook as she broke the bread into smaller pieces. Step by step, she moved closer. The cubs growled softly, but had no strength to attack. Elia knelt down. She placed the bread on the ground. Then she stepped back. The cubs sniffed the air. Slowly, painfully they crawled forward. They ate. Elia watched in silence. Her stomach screamed, but her heart felt calm. She gave them the second piece. Then the water. The cubs drank greedily. One of them lifted its head and looked at her. Its eyes were gold. Not cruel. Not angry. Just curious. Elia smiled for the first time in months. After they finished, the cubs curled together and slept. Elia sat near them, hugging her knees. She knew this was dangerous. If an adult dragon came, she would die. But she did not move. She stayed. Night passed slowly. The wind howled. The moon climbed high. Then, a shadow moved across the valley. Elia felt it before she saw it. The air grew heavy. Hot. The ground vibrated. Her heart stopped. She slowly looked up. The sky was filled with wings. A massive shape circled above. An adult dragon. No more than 1 dot far above, dark shapes moved like storms. Elia stood up. Her legs were weak. She stepped in front of the cubs. Her arms spread wide. Her mind screamed at her to run. But she didn't. If you must kill me, she whispered, then do it. But not them. The wind roared. A giant dragon landed on the cliff above her. Its eyes burned like fire. Its scales were black and red. It looked down at her. The cubs woke and cried out. Elia did not move. The dragon stared. Then something strange happened. The dragon did not attack. It lowered its head. Its eyes locked on the cubs. Then on Elia. It sniffed the air. Smelled the bread. The water. The human. A deep growl rolled through the valley. More dragons landed. 1 by 1. 10. 20. Their wings blocked the moon. Elia's breath shook. She was surrounded by death. The first dragon spoke. Not in words, but in sound that pressed into her bones. A voice older than war. Why do you live? Elia fell to her knees. I didn't want them to die, she said, her voice breaking. I know what that feels like. Silence. The dragons looked at her. The cubs crawled toward her and pressed against her legs. The dragons saw that. Their eyes changed. The leader raised its head and released a low, powerful roar that echoed across the mountains. The sound was not anger. It was a signal. Far away, more roars answered. The valley began to shake. Elia looked up, fear in her eyes. What did I do? She whispered. High above, hundreds of shadows moved in the sky. An entire dragon army was coming. And Elia had no idea that her life was about to change forever. The sky was no longer empty. It was alive. Dragons filled the air from every direction. Their wings beat like thunder. Firelight flashed between clouds. The valley that once knew only death now shook with power older than the world itself. Elia stood frozen. She was small. She was human. And she was standing in the center of a dragon gathering. The two dragon cubs pressed closer to her legs, trembling. One wrapped its small wing around her ankle, as if asking for safety. Elia swallowed her fear. I didn't mean to call you, she whispered. I just fed them. The great black and red dragon stepped forward. Its size was beyond anything Elia had imagined. Each breath it took felt like a storm passing over her. The dragon lowered its massive head until one glowing eye was level with her face. Its voice did not come from its mouth. It came from her mind. You fed what even dragons abandoned. Elia shook her head slowly. They were dying. The dragon army landed around them. Hundreds of dragons, ancient, scarred, powerful. Warriors, elders, mothers. This was not a hunt. This was a judgment. The leader dragon turned its gaze toward the cubs. These are the last of the ash bloodline, the voice echoed. They were marked for death by our own laws. Elia's heart dropped. Killed by dragons, she asked. The dragon's eye narrowed. Our world is dying, it said. Food grows scarce. Magic fades. We cannot raise the weak. Elia clenched her fists. So you leave them to die? Silence spread across the valley. The dragon's voice softened, just slightly. Yes. Elia looked at the cubs. Their thin bodies. Their dull scales. Their quiet breathing. She felt anger rise in her chest. You are wrong, she said. A deep rumble moved through the dragon army. No human had ever spoken to dragons like that. The leader dragon leaned closer. You dare judge dragons? Elia's knees shook, but her voice stayed strong. I judge hunger. I judge pain. I judge death when it can be stopped. The cub with golden eyes looked up at her and made a soft sound. The dragon army watched. Something ancient stirred. The leader dragon pulled back slightly. Why would a human care for dragon young? It asked. Elia looked down. Because no one cared for me. The words fell heavy. The wind slowed. The flames dimmed. The dragon entered her mind again, but this time gently. Tell us your truth, Orphan. Elia closed her eyes. She spoke. She told them about the war. About the fire that burned her village. About soldiers and screams. About hiding under bodies to survive. About walking alone for years. About learning how hunger feels like a knife inside your body. When I saw them, she said softly, I saw myself. The dragons listened. Every word. The oldest dragon stepped forward, its scales white with age, eyes like stars long past. It looked at Elia and spoke. You carry the mark. Elia looked up. What mark? The old dragon lowered its head. Your blood. The air changed. The dragons began to murmur. The leader dragon's eyes widened slightly. Impossible, it said. The old dragon lifted one claw and pointed to Elia's left arm. Elia, the old dragon said, roll up your sleeve. Confused, Elia did. On her arm was something she had always seen, but never understood. A faint symbol, like a burned circle, crossed with a line of light. The dragons gasped. The cubs cried out softly. The leader dragon stepped back. The bond sign, it said. Elia's breath caught. What does it mean? The old dragon spoke slowly. Long ago, before the wars, before the hatred, humans and dragons were bound. The valley seemed to fade as the story filled the air. There were rare humans, the dragon said, born with hearts strong enough to carry dragon fire without burning. Elia felt warmth in her chest. They were called keepers. The leader dragon continued. Keepers could feed dragons without fear. Heal them. Calm them. Raise them. The dragons looked at Elia. And dragons protected them. Elia's mind spun. My parents, they never told me. The old dragon lowered its head. Because keepers were hunted. Feared. Killed by both sides. A memory flashed in Elia's mind. Her mother pushing her away, shouting at her to run. Her arm burning where the mark was. Tears filled her eyes. They died because of me, she whispered. No, the leader dragon said firmly. They died to protect you. The dragon army bowed their heads. Even the strongest warriors lowered their wings. The leader dragon spoke again. You fed our young not with fear, but with love. You awakened the old bond. Elia hugged the cubs tightly. I don't want power, she said. I just don't want anyone else to be alone. The old dragon smiled. Yes, smiled. That, it said, is why the army came. The leader dragon turned and roared. Not a war cry. A call. Across the sky, dragons answered. This human is under dragon law, the leader declared. She is keeper-born. Elia looked around in shock. What does that mean, she asked. The leader dragon lowered its massive head before her. It means, it said, no dragon will harm you. The cubs climbed into her lap. The old dragon continued. But more than that, it said, it means you must choose. Elia looked up. Choose what? The dragon army spread its wings. The old world, the leader said, or a new one. The sky darkened as clouds rolled in. Far away, horns sounded. Human horns. An army was approaching the valley. Elia's heart pounded. The leader dragon's eyes burned bright. And they are coming for you. Elia stood slowly. She held the cubs close. Her fear faded. For the first time in her life, she was not alone. She looked at the dragons. Then, she said, teach me. The dragon army roared as one. The valley shook. Above them, fire and light twisted together. The world had just changed. And humanity did not yet know that its greatest protector had been adopted by dragons. The horns of the human army grew louder. Steel rang. Boots crushed stone. Torches burned against the dark. Elia stood in the center of the valley, surrounded by dragons. Above her, wings covered the sky. Below her, ancient power slept in the ground. In her arms, two small dragon cubs held her clothes, afraid but trusting. She took a slow breath. The leader dragon stepped beside her. Its shadow covered her like a wall. They come to claim you, the dragon said. They fear what they do not control. Elia looked toward the distant lights of the human army. I won't run anymore, she said. The old dragon watched her closely. You are still a child, it said. This path will hurt. Elia nodded. I know, she replied. But if I don't walk it, more children will be alone. More cubs will starve. The dragon army was silent. Then something no one expected happened. The leader dragon lowered its head. Then its body. Then its wings. It bowed. One by one. Another dragon bowed. Then another. Then hundreds more. The sky filled with kneeling giants. Elia's breath caught in her chest. What are you doing? She whispered. The leader dragon spoke, its voice clear and strong. We claim you. The valley echoed. By ancient law. The old dragon continued. A keeper who saves dragon young may be chosen, not as servant, but as kin. Elia's eyes filled with tears. Kin? She asked. The leader dragon extended one massive claw and gently touched the ground in front of her. From this moment, it declared, you are dragon-bound. The cubs cried out happily. The old dragon raised its wings. Do you accept the bond? Elia looked at the cubs. She remembered her parents. The fire. The hunger. The fear. She remembered every night she wished someone would choose her. She stood tall. Yes, she said. I accept. The ground shook. Light burst from the mark on her arm, glowing bright gold and red. Dragon fire did not burn her. It wrapped around her like a warm cloak. The dragons roared. Not in anger. In joy. The leader dragon lifted its head and called out across the mountains. Hear this, sky and stone. We adopt this human as our own. The human army reached the valley edge. They stopped. They saw it all. A small girl standing fearless. A dragon army kneeling before her. Firebending, not destroying, but protecting. The human commander raised his sword. Archers, he shouted. Elia stepped forward. No, she said, not loud, but clear, her voice carried. The dragons stood. Wings spread wide. Fire gathered, but waited. Elia raised her hand. The dragons obeyed. Every human froze. The commander's hand trembled. What are you? He whispered. Elia looked at them. I am human, she said. And I am not your enemy. She pointed to the cubs. They were dying, she said. Just like our children die in wars we start. Silence fell. You taught us to fear dragons, she continued. And dragons were taught to fear us. She opened her arms. But fear ends here. The commander lowered his sword. Soldiers whispered. Some dropped to their knees. The old dragon spoke, its voice rolling like thunder. This human fed our young when we would not. The leader dragon continued. She showed us what strength truly is. Elia turned back to the humans. You call yourselves powerful, she said. But power is not killing. She placed a hand over her heart. Power is choosing mercy when you are afraid. A young soldier stepped forward. My sister died in the war, he said softly. She was your age. Elia met his eyes. I'm sorry, she said. The soldier lowered his weapon. Then another did. Then another. The commander dropped his sword into the dust. We were wrong, he said. The dragons watched. For the first time in centuries, humans chose peace. The leader dragon turned to Elia. The world is changing, it said. And it will not be easy. Elia nodded. Teach me, she said again. The dragon army lifted her gently onto the leader's back. The cubs climbed with her. She held tight. As they rose into the sky, humans watched in awe. A human child flying among dragons. Not as prisoner. Not as queen. But as family. From that day forward, Elia became the bridge. She helped dragons remember compassion. She helped humans remember courage. Under her guidance, dragons guarded human cities from storms. Humans rebuilt the valleys and shared food. The old hatred faded. Not because of war, but because one small human chose kindness. Years later, stories spread across the world. Of the orphan girl. Of the dragon keeper. Of the human who changed fate. And whenever children asked dragons why they protected humans, the dragons would answer. Because one human fed our young, when she had nothing. And humanity finally learned that its greatest strength was never weapons. It was the heart brave enough to care.